Welcome back to the show, everybody. Here at Coffee for Closers, we have brewed up a fresh one for you this week. We have Mr. Cameron out of Des Moines, Iowa. A lot of our top producers already know Cameron, but for those of you maybe new to the cast or new to Megastar, you might not have heard this guy before now. And Cameron, why he's so interesting and why I love having him do trainings for us or talk to our advisors in any capacity is because he started with us in 2015 and he is our fastest growing producer out in the field. In 2015, he started with us, and at this point in 2019, he started from zero, has over 70 million under management. He will track for over 1.5 million in target life, overfunded IULs. That's target, everybody, target. And over 4 million in annuity production. Mind-blowing. This guy has all the keys. He has one of the best processes. He's pieced it together by learning from advisors, talking with advisors, listening to casts like this, getting some of the best nuggets that he can take home to his practice. He's learned those things. And he does all of our programs. He does our Learning Lab program. He works in the Fed market. He is a beast. And we were so honored to have him on the show this week to chat a little bit about his process. And if you stick all the way to the end, you got a nice special treat because I was able to get out of him some answers to the most common objections in the industry. And so this week, we're talking a little bit about process. That's the big key this week. So without further ado, without any more delay, my interview with Mr. Cameron McCarty. All right, welcome to the show, Cameron. Thanks for being on. Obviously your history or your reputation precedes you. You have had a meteoric rise to the numbers, so just superstardom in our business in a very short amount of time. And, I was excited to have you come on the show and just explain to us what you think is kind of key in your practice that has allowed you to attain such great growth in such a short amount of time. So first, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
I'd love for you to just kind of start off on how you got into personal production and where you got your start. And then we'll talk a little bit about your incredible process.
Yeah, sure. So when I graduated from college, I got right into the business, and so I was very fortunate to have that connection with Brokers International with the family. And when I spoke with my grandfather, he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I certainly don't want to work for you." And he said, "Well, why don't you get into the field?" And I said, "Perfect. How much do I get paid?" And he said, "The sky's the limit." So
That's great.
what we did was we got with the firm. I was very lucky to be with them. Very heavy on the annuity end, and again, that's what I was taught to do.
Right.
I grew up in the annuity world, and I was taught to, the safety component of indexed annuities. Well, that was when I was 21, and I was with them for maybe about 8 years, and I realized I was missing something, and I was missing those high net worth clients, and it's just so tough to come at them with an annuity. It's a great solution, but there's got to be more to that. And so I actually then started my own company and completely transformed my business. And I got licensed, got my Series 65, my 6, 63, Series 7. But then I really utilized my 65 license and it moved more into the security business. And that's where the success really started to shine for us with the type of planning that we're doing today.
Is that because you could do like a holistic plan? I mean, why is it so hard, I guess, to approach high net worth clients with just the annuity piece of the puzzle? And why do you think adding these other two pieces were so instrumental to accomplishing that goal?
Well, I think the first thing was finding a process that worked, and I went all over. I mean, I had my father. He sent me to Detroit. I met with another firm there, went through their process. I went down to Texas, saw that process. Went to Chicago, and I just couldn't find a process that fit me. But one thing that I was very fortunate to do, and I'm glad I was able to do that, I took bits and pieces from everybody's processes and I made it my own. But
Right.
my biggest thing that I found that these folks are looking for, and as simple as it is, it's taxes. How do I save money in taxes? So then the firm is Vivid Tax Advisory Services. That's the name of our firm. It's not, and there's nothing wrong with financial. I mean, I just wanted to be tax focused. So when I started working these high net worth, it's saying, okay, how do I save money in taxes? Because you could compete against all Edward Jones and all that. I mean, what are you going to compete against? Fees?
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
it's got to be the value. And so when you start building, and I have a CPA in house that we work with now, that has been a game changer. And I don't even talk about assets. I don't talk about product. I don't talk about any of that. We focus on taxes. How do I save money in taxes, Roth conversions? And after that, they start to see that holistic approach saying, wow, my advisor isn't even talking to me about this.
Right.
Then the solution unravels and presents itself. And then you start to really build your business from that point on.
Right. I mean, it's like almost like with the holistic plan, you're really able to, or starting from the tax plan, but also being, that you offer all the different services, you're really able to hone in on what the client's real pains are, at least more thoroughly than somebody that's not approaching it from that angle. So that's a
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful start. So you've got this. You went around the country, started touring and figuring out what pieces work for you. You ended up in this tax place. But what is it that you ended up being your process? Maybe you could walk us through your process on how a client gets to you. So how do you get in front of the client? And then how
Sure.
do you get them all the way to the close? Is it a two-step or two appointment process, one appointment process? Just walk us through in 10,000 foot view.
Yeah, sure. So we really kicked off our security business, our advisory business. We actually started the fourth quarter of 2015. I only had 3.7 million under management at the end of the year for 2015. Today, we are over right at 72 million of advisory business. And how we grew that was obviously that great partnership with you guys, with Megastar seminars. And I don't do dinner seminars. I just stopped doing those 5 years ago, and I've been doing Social Security classes, educational classes. We go to libraries, we go to colleges. Colleges is my biggest thing that I like to go to. And one thing I found as I started meeting with these people, they go, you know what? The reason why we came to this class was because you didn't offer me a dinner.
Right.
And I value that because they look at you as a true educator. And that's who I am as a person. And so it really fits my business. So we do these educational classes. Social Security is really it. We speak for about an hour 20. We use your programs. They work wonderfully. I made some tweaks of my own to fit my, personality. But I really dive into taxes, and I talk about the future required minimum distribution. I talk about Roth conversions. I talk about things that people need to look at, especially with today's tax bill, and taxes are on sale for them. And
Hmm.
that's what drives them through the doors. And so they come in. We book them while they're at the seminar. I have Caitlin there. She's our appointment scheduler. She gets them in, and it's a three-step process. Which is the third appointment is my close. So I do meet with these people quite a bit. And the first appointment, just like anybody, is the discovery, really identifying what's going on in their world. And then the second becomes very critical. The first thing I do is I give them what I promised, which is their analysis, but then I dive into taxes. We build a tax landscape for these folks to really show them what their future tax burden is going to look like. Then
Hmm.
I show them some windows of opportunity where taxes are on sale for them. I mean, again, these people, they don't mind paying taxes. They just don't want to pay any more than they have to. So what do we do? And I really show them how we are not a salesman. People don't need a salesman; they need an advisor. And as I walk them through this, they start to see my process, and they go, "Wow, this is fantastic!" And without even me bringing up about their advisor, they say, "Gosh, honey, our advisor's not even showing us this." And I said, "Well, there's more." And then I close on the third. I use a wonderful program, which I encourage all of your reps to look at, and that's Riskalyze. That's a wonderful tool that I use to really show them what they're in, but then I complement that with tax planning, and it's a wonderful marriage between those two.
Sure. So yeah, I mean the proposal. I know you do some intricate, I guess, engagement with the client too, don't you? I heard through the grapevine that you actually get them engaged to some degree, maybe going up and touching the big screen that you have in your office. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Because no, I think that has a really powerful psychological effect that, at the
Sure.
end when you're making your closing statements is say, hey, this is what you chose. Remember, you got up to the screen and made this decision over that decision. So talk to us a
Absolutely.
little bit about that.
So I'm laughing because that's a true fact. I'm glad you said that. It's kind of a wow factor. We have a 85-inch. It's called an Aquas board. It's through Sharp, and I actually got that idea from another rep with Brokers International. When I'm up there, I have a touchscreen TV. It's a mammoth in here, and they actually come up with me, and we can show different scenarios where this is their plan, because it's not what I want, it's what they want. So it starts to become that feeling saying, wow, look, honey, this is our plan. This is what this looks like. Another tool that we use is eMoney Advisor, which I absolutely love. It's a wonderful tool. And we're able to run different scenarios, but they can interact with me during this process, where it's not like the old days where it's just a bunch of papers. I mean, everything is interactive, and we're collaborating together. So yeah, this touchscreen TV has been a wow factor for sure. And I'm up here as if I'm an educator, walking them through, pointing at the screen, touching different things. And it also has a pen that I can use that I can actually write on the screen, show them different things. And I'm able to print that off for them as well for things. And, instead of them taking a picture, I can actually print it off. It's a wow factor. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it has been in my opinion, as small as it is, it's been a great thing for our growth as well.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with it when I first heard it. And, there's another thing too I heard through the grapevine, and this kind of dates or it comes back to some of the tweaks that you mentioned that you've made to the Learning Lab platform. And one of those being your appointment process at the end when you're wrapping it up. I heard something about a whiteboard and sticky notes. Would you mind explaining to us, maybe painting a little visual? I know that's somewhat more difficult in a podcast format, but a visual of what you do and how it's helped you maybe convert a few more appointments.
Yeah, you're talking about this at the class, correct?
Yes, yeah, at the Learning Lab event. Yep.
So I have a surface where the face of it actually detaches from the computer, and I'm able to walk around, which that's what I like to do. I have my pen with me. It looks like I'm holding on to an iPad, and I'm able to go through the PowerPoint and write on my screen, which illustrates through the projector. And I'm able to show different things, because that's just how I am. I like to illustrate instead of just pointing at the slide. And so I'm able to do that. And then some people would say, hey, can you go back to that? Can you show me how you did that again? I mean, it's that interaction. And it also shows, again, that you're an educator. If I use that, if there's not a whiteboard at the class, some of them will. That's why I like colleges, because they'll have a bunch of these big, huge whiteboards, and I'm able to write on them. If not, I'll just use my computer, and it illustrates through the projector. So it's very, very slick.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how do you book your appointments at the event itself?
Yep. So usually, we get some really good response through you guys. Now, keep in mind, I have a goal of hitting 100 million by the end of this year. So I am loading up like crazy with seminars. So not only am I doing the learning lab through your guys' campaigns, but I'm also doing mailers on top of that to really drive my attendance up.
Yep.
The more people you see, the more you have a chance of picking up more assets. So at the close, I tell them, because there's so many people there, we actually have a huge calendar board that's right there with Caitlin. And we put little sticky notes on it with dates and times. So I tell them, I say, hey, folks, what you need to do is if you want to see me, go to the board, bring your evaluation form up, and find a date that fits you. And what they do is they peel that off the calendar board, put it on their evaluation form, and they give that to Caitlin. Caitlin will then give them a packet, like a prep kit, to prepare them from their appointment, and they're gone. So instead of her going through the calendar trying to find a spot that works, they just go to the board, pick their date, and we know when they're going to come in.
When I heard that, I was just dumbfounded. I mean, that is such a simple, elegant solution to kind of like a nerve-wracking experience for any advisors, like watching them. Are they going to book an appointment on their way out? Are they going to turn in their sheet on the way out? Blah, blah, blah. But this whole sticky note situation makes it so less threatening. As long as that first person gets up and goes and picks that sticky note off, I imagine you start to see just the demand start to go a little quicker than you normally might see. Is that what you've seen?
It's really cool when you see a line of people at the board, and then some of them will try to get up there sooner than the other person to grab a date, because a lot of these folks are working, so they want to grab a 5 or 6 o'clock time. But it is so cool. I mean, here I am, just looking at the line. Caitlin's loving it because she's, all they have to do is give her the sheet with the time, and it's a smooth process. So I really feel that we've perfected our seminar process, especially for getting the appointment, because again, after an hour 20, hour 30 of speaking, these people are ready to go home. So
Right.
It just moves that process.
Now, jumping forward a little bit, you do a 3-step process, and in the second, you're really engaging the client and getting them a proposal, kind of walking them through from the tax mindset all the way through what your end proposal will be, whether it be securities or life insurance policy, like an overfunded IUL. I know you like to do that, annuity, whatever it might be. In your close, how does that third appointment go? I imagine you've already pre-prepped them that the next step is to put this proposal in place. So when are you getting them to commit to the proposal? Is it at the end of the second appointment, or is it at the beginning or during the third appointment?
No, what I do is when I close, I basically ask them to hire me, and I give them reasons why. And so, for example, what I do is I kind of use that third person, point of view, where I say, hey, this is why our clients like us. This is why our clients hired us. This is what they like about our firm. And then I show them, like, hey, this is the tax savings that we're able to offer you guys. And I tell them, I say, hey, folks, I have to give you reasons for you to hire me. And they go, yeah, that's right. And so I appreciate you allowing me to showcase our services here, because you are who we're looking for. But I got to give you reasons for you to hire me. And so I'm going to walk you through this process. And so I walk them through the taxes and show them how we can help them save money. When I close, I do tell them, and I say, hey, folks, so do you guys see the value of what we're doing here? And they say, yeah, this is fantastic. And then I tell them, so now what I'm going to do is, guys, I want you to hire me. And again, this is the reason why. So that word, that simple word, hire me, is something that they it's like, hey, let's go into this. No, just hire me as your financial advisor. And so I do that at the throughout the process, but I definitely ask them at the end for them to hire me. And when you're walking them through 3 appointments, usually by the end of the second, they have a pretty good idea if you're going to work with them or not.
Right. I love the hire me because it speaks volumes beyond the, hey, are you interested in pursuing this proposal or something like that. The other closes I've kind of heard, or the statements I've heard, hiring suggests that, one, they're in control, and two, because you're going to work for them. It's not like you're going to be a client of mine. It just changes the script in a little bit. And then the other side of it, hire me says, this is a long-term thing. We're going to be talking for a long, long time, and I'm not just going to write this deal today and be gone tomorrow. It's a relationship, and that connotation with the word hire, I think, is powerful. I think it's probably done you more good than you might realize. That's that's
Hmm.
that's wonderful. Now, the other thing I always like to do on Coffee for Closers is run a couple of objections by folks. And so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I want you to think of, while we're answering the first one, I want you to think of another one that you get a lot, an objection that your clients will give to you that you've learned to overcome better and better over the years. The first one I always
Okay.
ask, I ask every advisor this. The hardest objection out there, I think, for advisors is the I'll have to think about it, right? Or I'm going to think about it situation. Is that one an objection that you've heard? I imagine it is. And two, how
Yep.
do you typically handle that objection?
So if here's the way I look at it. So when we're closing on the third, does that mean that I move everybody that day? No, because this is a big decision. I mean, put yourself in that client's shoes, and I tell them this as if I'm talking to you, as if you were a client, Alex. I say, guys, this is a big decision, and this is something that you shouldn't take lightly. I mean, we are here to help you. The big thing is that do you see the value of us being part of your team? And you don't have to make that decision today if you don't want to, and that's fine. I mean, obviously, you guys know that I'm looking for new clients, and I can make a difference in your lives financially. But if you need to go home and think about this and talk about this, let's then have a follow-up meeting, and that's what I usually say. Go home because you'll be able to read them, and you'll say, why don't you guys go home, and then let's just have a follow-up meeting. And then before they leave, I book next week. I'll say, hey, let's book a follow-up meeting for next week to discuss everything that we've talked about. And then that helps them go, okay, that's nice. I mean, that's how I do that, Alex. I mean, if they want to go and talk about it, great. But then just book a follow-up meeting with them to go over all the information you went through. Because again, this is a relationship. This is not a sale. I mean, you are changing these people's lives, and that's how I approach that.
It's beautiful and right on point with what I've heard. It's definitely kind of the common trend in the industry is, set up the appointment, let them know, like, I want you to uncover everything that you could possibly be concerned with, and let's go over them. Because if you see
Hmm.
value in the presentation or the value in the proposal, and you have other questions out there, we've got to talk about them prior to. It's better to get that transparency out there. And I love the kind of gentle, like, hey, this is a long-term relationship thing, and of course you have questions. Of course you need to think about it. If they give that up to you, agreeing with them and leaving them, I mean, that would send me away just thinking this guy's so much different than every other financial person I've ever chatted with. That's great.
That's
That's good.
exactly it. That's exactly it, because they look at you as a true advisor and not a salesman. I mean, the sales will come, but when you put yourself in their shoes, I mean, all your advisors know that. But I mean, when it shows that you don't need it, like, hey, I don't need this business, that makes them want you even more. And
Yep.
I tell you that was something I learned a long time ago, and it's been paying dividends ever since, especially with all the business that we're doing.
Definitely don't want to stink like you need a sale. That's for sure.
Yep.
So the other, is there another objection that you get from time to time? Maybe one that's more addressable in the office? I mean, what's a common objection that you hear that's not the I'll think about it thing out in the field?
So I diffuse things right away. One big question people have, even when I say it at the class, for them to come in, there's no cost or obligation to work with me to get this analysis run. When I meet with them, the first thing I tell them is this. I say, hey, folks, did you enjoy the class? Yes, we did. Okay, perfect. Well, there's before we begin, I got a couple things I want to go over with you. I got two things here. Number one big question people have is, okay, this is great. You're going to do this analysis for me, but how does this guy get paid? I mean, what's in it for you? When's the other shoe drop? And so I say that to them, and I tell them there's two things I'm going to do for you guys. Number one, I'm going to give you this analysis that I promised. And I tell them, put yourself in my shoes. I'm a business owner. This is a great way for me to meet new people. But again, there's no charge for this, and you're not going to get a bill for this. The second thing that we're going to do for you is, first thing's the analysis. The second thing is we want you to have a good experience with us, because you never know, you might need us someday. And I diffuse that right away, because everybody that comes through our doors is thinking, how does this guy get paid? How does he get paid? How does he get paid? I diffuse it right when they come in, and we want them to have that good experience, because we've received referrals from people we don't work with.
That is so powerful. I really can appreciate that, because I'm a huge advocate, even in my day-to-day dealings with advisors wanting to come on to Megastar's platform, is I just try to use, the objections I've heard before, the most common objections. If there's an objection that you're getting all the time, I so thoroughly agree with the fact that you need to preempt it, because the preempting of it sets you apart from every other person they've ever talked to that they've had to give that objection to. Or, it's kind of like their ace in the sleeve. They're holding that, how do you make money later on, because they want to grill you down the road. So when you come in and you address that right up front, you've thrown them a curveball, and now you've almost got them leaning into the table like, okay, this guy is a little different. I need to listen to what he's got to say. Maybe he's not like every other salesperson I've talked to.
That's it. Because remember, these folks are getting bombed with mail. There's a dinner everywhere, and so you got to just like you said, you got to be different, and that's again why I use the educational approach, and I'm upfront with people. I want them to know that, hey, it's okay to ask questions and have concerns, because again, put yourself in their shoes, and I tell you, it just goes a long way.
Well, Cameron, it's certainly nothing short of impressive what you've been able to do in 4.5, 5 years almost. 70 million in annuity or in assets under management, an incredible amount of life production and annuity production to boot as well. Absolute pleasure having you on our team, and we're just so excited that you were able to spend some time with us on the show and some of your knowledge and wisdom you've learned over the years.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Alex. And again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All right. Have a great one. Great rest of the year to you, my man, and we'll chat soon.
Take care.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening. Again, another week in the books and another incredible interview from Coffee for Closers. Next week, we start a series, one I'm really excited about. It's all about presenting. The next 4 weeks, it's going to be a 4-part episode. And we're going to be interviewing some of the top presenters, some of those with the best statistics out in the field about presenting to the field, or presenting at a workshop, either a learning lab, federal, whatever it might be. We're going to find out what makes their presentation so much better than everybody else in the area, and why they've been able to convert higher than anybody else into appointments. So that next week and more here on Coffee for Closers. And remember, second place gets steak knives.